I would be interested in learning about, what is the easiest mistake to make as a coach in terms of cultural differences.
Of course. So Flores, very, very good question. The temptation is very strong to give people solutions. Why? Because as a coach, you met the same situation. You experienced that as a professional. I experienced all these situations as a professional before becoming a trainer and a coach. And I built some solutions which are proven, which are working, right? So the danger and the temptation is to give them very quickly the solutions, right? Instead of creating awareness, putting them into the challenge and asking them to use the cultural values, using the local culture to build their own solutions. This is the biggest trap we have. It's very tempting to do it. That would be my answer. Very good question, Flores. But that's a typical trap we have as coaches in general.
Yeah, Christian.
Yes,
Rick. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the great talk again. Good to hear it. You said, or we learned, that the greatest skill that people need is this cross-cultural skill ability. Okay. So as companies grow, irrelevant of where on the planet they are starting from, let's say you take two countries starting with the opposite ends of the world, they are their own cultures. And as they grow into other countries and they start working together, how far do people need to shift?
Exactly.
Does the person in one country flip to interact with the other person, or does the other person flip to interact?
Exactly.
So do we meet in the middle, or do we go one way or the other way, or is it a flip-flop all the time?
Very good question. Very important question. And in fact, to answer that question, I answer that question when I present the objective of my workshop. I created a workshop, a 2 days workshop, where I put foreigners, expats, and Vietnamese together for 2 days to help each side understand the other side. And I'm facilitating the exchange of perception and information. And I introduce this workshop with my objective. So I ask their objectives, of course, as well, but I give my objective, and my objective is very simple. That's what I want you to reach at the end of these 2 days. First, I will help you to become aware of who you are as a cultural person. What is your cultural position? And to do that, I help you to understand the roots of your culture, the cultural values driving your behaviors. And we have a tool also, it's a questionnaire to build your personal cultural profile with 40 questions. And then we establish the cultural position of the other people, right? The other side. Right? Let's say I'm expat here, and here is the Vietnamese. Why the Vietnamese are staying there? Again, roots of culture, cultural values. And then we will compare the two positions, cultural value by cultural value, to reveal all the cultural differences. Let's say, oh, I'm relationship oriented, or I am transactional. That's one element. But now there's 14 elements, right? So let's compare one by one and see what are the gaps. So maybe on some elements, some cultural values, there's a small gap. Maybe on some others, there's a big gap. And we can measure that gap with that element. So we can see if there's a big gap. If there's a big gap, of course, there's a lot of impact. Small gap, less impact. So let's be aware of that. That creates awareness. Now, if you ignore or you don't do anything about these cultural values, they will not disappear by chance, by miracle. They are still there, meaning that they're still impacting you on the daily basis. The whole organization is being impacted for every interaction. Imagine you multiply that by the number of people, the number of days in a year. Now, how do we do then? How can we bridge the gaps? That's your question, Rick. So if you're an expat, you cannot change. You can stay where you are and not saying, "Oh, hey, this company is Western. The working culture of this company, that's the corporate culture is Western. I'm Western, so that's the way to do. I stay there, and you have to move." So I see that in companies. I see that in companies, I see expats having that attitude, right? And they stay there and they say, oh, you have to do it my way. And they stay there and they wait until they leave and nothing is happening. I see that. I've seen that for the last 10 years. Now you need to adapt to the local culture because, hey, okay, it's a Western company, you are Western, but hey, we are in Vietnam and your employees are Vietnamese, right? So you need to adapt, you need to shift. Now, they're going to shift. Even if they do the best, they're going to stop somewhere in the middle because there's some values from Vietnam they can integrate, some other values they cannot integrate, and some personal values they want to keep. So you cannot go all the way. You cannot become completely Vietnamese, right? So you're going to stop at best somewhere in the middle. Now, if you stop in the middle, there's still a gap. And that gap now has to be breached by the Vietnamese because, okay, we're in Vietnam, yes. Most of my colleagues are Vietnamese, yes, but this is not a Vietnamese company. This is a global company, a Western company. The culture is different. And some of my colleagues are expats. They have a different culture. So I need to adapt also as a Vietnamese. So we need to help also the local staff to shift and adapt to the corporate culture of the company and help them to do that. And as leaders, you're an agent of change. This is one of your principles and prerogatives, privilege, but also responsibility. So the leaders have to reach out to their staff and help them to cover their share of the gap. And if everyone is meeting in the middle and create that cultural mix, we take what is good in the West, we should keep, and we can integrate, we keep it, we use it. We cannot take all the values from Vietnam away. There's some values we have to keep and integrate into our corporate culture in our leadership. Let's say family, for example. Family in Asia, you cannot take that away from a company. You cannot, simply can't. It is so powerful that everything is family in Asia. Government, administration, military, business, leadership, you name it. So one example where you need to integrate that local cultural element into your mix of culture, right? So you're going to make a choice. You're going to make a choice. You're going to make a mix. You create a mix. What can I take, which is easy to integrate? What I'm going to take on this side, and create a cultural mix. And in the middle, if everyone is meeting in the middle, that's where the success is. Why? Because everyone is comfortable. When you have people being comfortable in the working environment, in any environment, these people are very productive. We know that as leaders. And culture is a very important element to create that comfort, where I'm comfortable being who I am, behaving the way I behave, so I can deliver and do whatever I need to do. That's where success is. So it is a choice. You need to choose what cultural values you're going to take in the West, in the local, and create that mix. And I would finish by saying, this is one of the biggest mistakes. I keep on repeating it. Nobody's listening. When you have a head office in Oklahoma, you create your corporate culture in Oklahoma, and you're working in 120 countries in the world. The mistake you're doing is that you take that corporate culture and you impose it to the rest of the world. And it simply doesn't work, because some of your cultural values in your corporate culture are going against the local cultural values of the country where you are. So you simply cannot ask people to do that, because it's against their strongest cultural values. So you need to create a local cultural mix where you take what is good and possible to transfer into your corporate culture and mix it with the local culture. So you need to create a local mixed corporate culture so your local entity can thrive in that cultural context. That's my answer.